One when they do, but then it's like short stays and.
Okay. I have started the meeting and I am live streaming us on YouTube. Let's see.
One when they do, but then it's like short stays.
Jack Attridge, can you hear us? If you can hear us, can you just text me? You can hear me? Just want to make sure. Mike, I'm going to upgrade. So if I turn my, I could. All right.
There. You go. I just muted again so I can hear. Oh.
Okay, so try it now. Try it now.
Yeah. I muted my speaker so you're good.
So I've got my audio on. Hopefully people can hear us. Jack, how about now? It's loud and clear. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to call us. Welcome, everyone. Happy belated Thanksgiving. I'll call us to order at 2:03 p.m., which is the Marblehead School Committee Budget Subcommittee and Marblehead Finance Committee School Liaisons Subcommittee joint meeting today. So thank you, everyone, for coming. I would like to ask I guess both committees, we have an agenda with public comment is item number 4, right before adjournment. I would like to ask if everyone agrees to do public comment at the beginning. I think we've got one person here. We might have some folks online. And we can certainly do one at the end as well if there are folks here. I don't know why I did that. I apologize, though. Is everyone okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we're going to move public comment to the beginning. So I will go here in the room first, and then I will go online. So, hi, Sarah. I don't know if you wanted to do public comment.
No, I do.
Okay.
And then I'm off to school pickup. Sarah Fox, 46 Beach Street. I am looking forward to watching the replay of the meeting, so I'll have to leave early and hearing this addressed later on in the meeting. On June 9th enrollment, the Monday enrollments that come out, our enrollment was 2,727. Today's enrollment was 2,511. In less than 6 months, that's a 216 student decline, which is 8%. Now, this can't be attributed necessarily. It can't be attributed at all to people's unhappiness with the previous school committee. This entire 8% decline has been post sitting a new committee. My concern is that in a town where people track numbers so closely, there needs to be tight messaging around the budget and how this decline in enrollment, which is unprecedented in my time here. Which would be 13 or 14 years in the school. Completely unprecedented to have an 8% decline in 1 year, let alone in less than 6 months. How that is translating into your staffing lines, because if this question can't be answered, there is no hope for getting additional funding. In this entire town, I believe is going to be looking for additional funding. Someone who's tracked these budgets for a long time. We've seen this coming. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I think we're 20 years without a Prop 2.5. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that funding wouldn't be warranted, but it certainly needs to be explained in a very tight way, because when you have an 8% decline in enrollment in less than 6 months, there is a strong question of why you're not seeing a significant decline in employment as well. And we have not seen that materialized in the last, 14 years. The last large decline in positions was 33 positions in 3 years ago. But the vast majority of those were unfilled positions, as we all know. So I just look forward to hearing the explanation.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. Okay. Anyone else, anyone online? If you are interested in speaking, please raise your hand. I see Kate Thompson. Okay, Kate, I'm going to unmute. You should be able to unmute, Kate.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Let me see. All right, now try it, Kate.
Can you guys hear me now?
We're not hearing you. Let's see.
I'm just gonna talk.
Oh.
Is that
Okay,
working?
Kate, we can hear you now, Kate.
Okay, great. So I sent an email a little while ago, but I wanted to reiterate in public comment so that it's on the record. I looked over the agenda for today's meeting and I did not see any minutes on this agenda for approval. And I'm concerned that a backlog of minutes that existed through last year is now growing. And so I would like to formally request that this subcommittee produce minutes for the following meetings. 3 this year so far, and that was on 10/17, 10/30, and 11/17. And then I think it's 5 from last year, 10/24, 1/7, 2/13, 2/28, and 3/18. Some of those have recordings on the YouTube and some of them do not, but all of them need to have minutes publicly posted. So I appreciate your attention to this matter.
Okay, thank you. Just give me a second here. Okay, I don't see other hands raised. Is anyone, would anyone else like to make comment? Okay. All right. So let's move on to our first item on our agenda, which is the FY27 school department budget planning and reporting. So this is basically a next step from our last meeting, which was on, I believe, October 30th. Did you want to share your spreadsheet, Mike?
Yeah, I guess I shared it with some people, but not everybody, so I apologize. I took what had provided earlier and kind of divided up a little bit. I delved a little deeper into it and drilled down a little further and kind of put some things into buckets that were. I'm trying to do 2 things. I'm going to put it up on the screen there also. But I don't think I'm going to have to cast for my.
Yeah, if you do the Windows key.
Yeah, but actually that's not going to go to. I'm going to have to do it from my Zoom window. Ready to see that?
Yep.
So, are you guys in?
I have it on.
You have it on yours. Yeah. Yep. So what I did was I took buckets by department, and you'll see that I went by school. So I have the 5 schools there: the athletics department, student services, teaching and learning, finance and HR, technology, facilities, superintendent. All of the departments. And then, so I've got one for administration, got a grouping for clerical. Then I have teachers, which I broke down by pre-K, K, gen ed.
And you, that's okay. No, I just have to mute.
Should be a Windows.
Yep.
Yeah, function F. Two maybe.
Hang on, it should,
Jacob.
all right, you'll be fine.
Okay, great. So we broke the teachers down by pre-K, kindergarten, gen ed, EL teachers. Encore and electives, so that's our art, music, PE at the elementary levels, and then it gets into engineering and library and library at the elementary also. And then as we get into the high school, some of the elective courses up there. Intervention is more like reading teachers, math intervention is whatnot. Special education and special education teachers, and that is kind of runs the gamut. It's our therapeutic programs, our ABA programs, it's our intervention programs or our inclusive programs. So it did not break it down any further than just special education at this time.
So intervention is not considered special education.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Would that be Title I, like Title I tutors?
No, this would be teachers because it's one of the teachers.
Okay.
This would be more like reading specialists, literacy specialists, math interventionists, just
And they work with all different students.
so then you have special education. You'll see lane changes there just because this is the budget. We did have lane changes budgeted in there. Those are for teachers who inform us that they're going to advance on the horizontal, I believe, horizontal side of the scale. For maybe master's plus 15 credits, or we have to move up to 75 credits, at least 60. And then we have some summer salaries in there just for teaching and learning. The majority of our summer special ed salaries are paid out of the IDEA grant. So that's why you don't see summer so much under student services.
So you have these costs are only from the appropriated portion of the budget, not from grants.
Correct. And then we have get into special education services. We have the team chairs, one at each school. So the license would be our OTPT SLP. Right, should have been. I had to think about that myself just looking at it. So those are OTPT SLP, possibly BCBA. Yeah, BCBA would be in there also. They hold the license. And then you have the support. So under the supports would be the OTA, PTA, SLPA. So those are occupational therapist assistant, speech and language pathologist assistant, and occupational physical therapy assistant. So
That's all under licensed?
that's under support.
Support.
Yeah. So those are the assistants. So the license are the people who it's the OTPT SLP. And then right below that, you have the OTA, PTA, SLPA.
And then, so some are under student services and some are under the actual building?
No, those are all under student services.
Because it doesn't add, is it supposed to add up horizontally? No.
So I have licensed Brown. So those are OTPT, SLP, $240,000 budgeted. Licensed Glover, SLP, whatever, $275,000. Village, $369,000. That's $284,000.
And then what's the 552,704?
So those are primarily BCBA's. So BCBA's are based out of the district.
Okay, so that's, so the total must be are on the far on the right.
I didn't total each line, but yeah, the entire student services is 2.7 million.
Okay.
But I didn't break it down. It is a spreadsheet, so it can be
Okay.
very simply formulas in there. Substitutes. So at Belva schools now we have at least one, in some cases, two permanent subs. Those are substitutes who are full-time 180-day employees. They are in their own collective bargaining unit. And then you'll notice on the teaching and learning, because I didn't know where else to put it, I have got the day-to-day subs. So it's the people we call in day-to-day basis. Let me get into our instructional assistants, formerly known as tutors. And I broke that down again by pre-K, kindergarten. Gen Ed, you'll see those just go through the elementary level. Those are our math and literacy tutors. On line 27 there. Special education are all special education instructional assistants. Some are assigned to classrooms, some are assigned to one-to-one students or small groups. And then we have our lunch and recess monitors. They actually fall under different collective bargaining agreements, the first 4 groups, but these are operational support personnel, but have a very similar role. And then you'll notice in summer there, we do have a small amount of money in summer for teaching and learning. I think Julie has one position in the summer for literacy and math tutor, which will fall under Gen Ed. So true, I mean, this 2359 could actually go up here on the Gen Ed, but I tried to break out summer so people could see where that was. So then instructional coaches. These are, you'll see under all the 5 schools, 24,000, 30,000, 48,000, 30,000, and 55,000. Those are our teacher leader stipends. And then right up above on line 33, there is a $79,000 instructional coach. That's at the high school, that's a data coach. And then over here on the teaching and learning, you'll see we've got our district-wide coaches, more
So,
curriculum development and implementation.
so what's the total on that line? It's
All
like
total
$8,000.
$732,000. But
So that's like 4 or 5-ish, say, full-time employees that are.
They're not-
That,
They're stipended, it's not a full-time.
no, I'm not
under
talking about the
teaching and learning.
stipend, what's under teaching and learning.
Right, column I, yes, correct. Those would be probably for full-time.
And how is that allocated? So it's not really to a school, do they work across
Yeah, they work across the district.
like, okay, and so they'll do like all math across all grades maybe, or?
Yeah,
how-
and they
Okay,
they're working on curriculum, they're working on PD, professional development curriculum. And then I believe they also work in a classroom environment to support teachers who may ask for additional assistance with new curriculum or.
Yeah, especially all the curriculum that we put in place for the school year. So
How many people is that, do you know? Wait, that'll come later, I guess. 433?
Are you still seeing my old screen? The screen, your screen hasn't
Yeah.
changed, right?
No.
It's good. I've got 4 instructional coaches. Yes, 4 instructional coaches. And there may be a little bit more in there because the 4 instructional coaches this year budgeted is about $405,000. No, it's at 433.
Mhm.
So there's somewhere around $28,000 coming out of another line. But those are 4 instructional coaches. Typically, those are they are all teachers. They are all in Unit A, and they are typically very experienced, highly educated experts in their fields. That can show it 28,000. It's in front. It's there somewhere.
it just to help us understand, like, how do you know that 4 is the right number there? I guess I'm trying to get a sense for, because this feels like is this line I had some questions on, because I don't understand it as well as like some of the more
No.
obvious.
yeah, most of it's K-8, most of it's
Okay.
around that. And it's working with the teachers and the administrators to make sure that the curriculum is implemented, with the coaching's there, that the data is collected, that they're working day to day on that, all those pieces. So how do we know that it's the right number?
Yeah.
I mean, it's quantifiable, probably not as quantifiable as you'd like it to be, I guess. So we have to look at, it's hard to say, well, this amount of coaches for this amount of students is the
Yeah.
right number. That's a little bit more difficult than saying classroom teachers have, X amount of
Yeah.
students, and that makes sense. So yeah, it's a little bit harder to quantify.
How do you think about it then? If you can't quantify it with numbers, how do you like think about the step?
So we look at the the staffing patterns we look at, you know, the needs at the district. So for instance, like at the lower elementary levels, they provide more services than as they go up higher, because the kiddos are in more need when, you know, at the grade levels. So most of it is that you know, there's a lot of support at Brown and collaboration, you know, and so you know, they provide all those services so that the staffing can ensure that they provide the right resources and the curriculum and instruction to the students so that they can, you know, make payments. And then we have one of our data coaches. She'll have all the data on kind of that'll speak more eloquently than I can, but there's that was engaged.
Are these coaches student facing? Or they're both, because in my mind, and I'm probably wrong in doing this, think of this as the curriculum support side. We typically used to have curriculum directors.
So we have one as curriculum director, one a curriculum director, and the other one's instructional coaches working with the students and the teachers. I kind of think of it as like embedded PD, really. So instead of having someone just come and say, "Hey Molly, this is how you do this curriculum," you know, walk away. You say, "Hey Molly, this is how you do this curriculum," and then show, teach and do the doing of it. So that's it's ongoing and embedded. So so that we can get more out of the teachers and more out of the students by having that extra level of support. So
I do think this is like if you go back, because I've been around for a while. So if you go back, and Pat, you might remember, we used to have curriculum directors. That was the standard model for years and years. And I think we had 2 district wide. This is back in the, you know, early 2000s to mid until we hit the recession. And it was a different role. They weren't student facing. They were just there to develop curriculum and observe and supervise teachers and provide evaluations to teachers. So those are administrative. They were not unit A. Those positions were eliminated under Dr. Dulac. And so this is my understanding of the chronology, both on and off the committee. The role of the curriculum director at that time was recreated in the form of the lead teachers, which we do have stipend lines for. So we said, okay, we're going to take that, whatever version of that budget, and we're going to stipend teachers who are tenured, experienced teachers to provide the coaching and mentoring for younger teachers or newer teachers or what have you. They didn't have supervisory responsibility. They couldn't evaluate. They couldn't, do any of that. So now we also have this. Yeah. So I think it's just to put, so this is in, so that is at some point these were brought in. I don't know when. I must not have been on the committee. So
I know we've heard a lot about how the curriculum over the last few years, at least since my kids have been in the district, have really more uniform curriculum across the schools, working, horizontally and vertically. I think so. I'm assuming all that is also part of
Well, it's yes and no, because curriculum directors, in my experience, would help determine curriculum. I'm not sure I could be wrong. The instructional coaches do that. I thought that was more on the teaching and learning.
So
superintendent.
Right. She oversees that department. So she oversees the curriculum director and instructional coaches, and they work together to determine with the input from the student teachers what curriculum needs to be, looked at, while we look at it, and then what curriculum needs to be replaced, what does it need to be replaced with, what training do we need, all that. And it's like I said, it's ongoing. And I think the lead teacher is different than that. The lead teacher is more around how they help collaborate and communicate amongst the departments and the grade level teams, so that the PLCs that they have, the teacher leaders run that, so it's more cohesion and collaboration. That's a lot of what they do. So and then they work together too. So it's more interwoven than it probably used to be. Curriculum directors here saying this is a curriculum we're going to do. They're pushing it down. This is kind of pulling it from the bottom up and then out.
And again, I've seen a significant investment, I would say, or engagement in when you talk about data like iExcel, for example, that we now get reports as parents on, how our kids are doing in ELA and on math. And as part of this investment, we've had like Wit and Wisdom. We'll have a new math curriculum, I believe, too. Is it fair to say then? So as in my experience as a parent, I've seen an investment in curriculum. Is that sort of what we're seeing also on the salary line? So it sounds like there were 2
Yeah, I don't know.
positions before. Now there's, it seems like it's a bigger team
Yes,
coordinating
it
this
is,
now,
yeah.
but it's, at least as a parent, you can see their output from it, at least that I've been happy with. But I just trying to try to piece together, what is this investment, right? We're spending more, we're getting more, right? I mean, is that
It's a completely different model than what I understand the previous models.
okay?
Like I said,
It
it's
might-
top down before, now it's not top down. It's, embedded.
It might be helpful at some point to have either descriptions or an org chart. I don't know, something. It might be helpful. I don't.
Well,
you know,
this
I think-
is all I need. I mean, this really is helpful to me in terms of understanding sort of how you view the district and operationally. I mean, I learned a lot just going through that number.
Yeah, and I'm probably not doing it justice the way like Julia can, so this is what she lives in Breeze and does, so you can probably explain it more thoroughly than I could, but I can tell you that, the feedback and input and what all those folks do day in, day out is that's very valuable to teachers and making sure that they're doing what they need to be doing. Because what happens if you just drop curriculum in, you say you have COVID day training and then you don't have that support, it kind of falls apart. It's always been my experience. And this is a way for that not to happen. And also to say, how do we push our kids? How do we increase the rigor? This is all part of what.
Well, that's also, at the end of the day, what you really need to say too. That's not what this discussion is, but this is all investment in, what's available.
So Jen, what you're looking for, like a roles and responsibilities summary for the different positions, because that could be very useful in terms of communicating the roles and responsibilities of these positions, where it could be that there's potential overlap with some. And back to the curriculum director positions, I don't remember only two. My earliest recollection, this
Was Mark Green.
10 years ago, but yeah, right. But there were more, there wasn't just math.
I think he was math and science, and we had Robin Berg, and she was ELA and social studies.
Well, they didn't,
Robin, I forget her name.
but then didn't that kind of morph into the lead teacher role?
Those were eliminated, those positions, and the role became the responsibility of the lead teacher.
Right. So, I mean, we've still got lead teachers
Yes.
in the current structure. Now you've got these other positions, and I'm just trying to be able to
Mhm.
to show
So
where
I think the
the
difference is the lead teachers are teaching in their classroom day to day. The lead teacher is a stipended position that allows them to, like again, help to.
but they
hold
were
that
before too. They
right,
were
and
before
it
too.
wasn't effective. That's why I went to a different model. So the curriculum and instructional coaches they don't have their own classrooms, but they're in the classrooms. They're in working with the teachers. They're working with the students. They're working with each other. They're working with the different grade levels. Making sure our curriculum's being addressed and put in place and taught the right ways.
I think,
Reviewing.
yeah, I think it would be helpful to just see that written down for the broader community, because like how you're describing it, I'm like, oh, it makes complete sense. But for people that have been around for 10 years, they're like, oh, we got rid of that curriculum director.
I
Push it on the
could not,
lead
to be
teacher.
honest
So
with
that
you,
lead
I never
teacher,
knew
we got the-
instructional coaches. I
Yeah.
had heard them, but I never knew that actually what they did. So if I don't,
Yeah, I can. That's,
Yeah.
I'm sure it exists. I'm sure it exists.
well, we can create it.
And that
Um,
also is helpful for the vast, well, maybe
For the
not
public.
vast, but for the public who isn't involved.
Right, I
And
can see
others
this, right?
who see it in the
What I get
school
from
every
my
day,
kid, right?
and recognize the value added.
Yeah. And I've
That's
seen,
fine.
I've seen the improvement in the coordination
Yep.
across grades, and
Yep.
also, especially
It
when
makes a
my
lot of
kids have
sense the way you're
transitioned from
describing
school to
it, yeah.
school, like,
Yep.
like I've seen it, but, being able to communicate that, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thanks.
And I lump all four under one thing. I'm not an expert in that side of it.
Yes, like.
Yeah.
Right,
So
so,
data person, she resides at high school, so she.
Yeah.
But it's it's not an insignificant it's not huge, but it's not insignificant part of the salary line. So
I just keep moving. Guidance. So this is one of the areas that I need to dig deeper into. I can tell you the one that's probably most accurate is the high school between guidance and adjustment. School adjustment counselor is typically a special education position. And a guidance position is typically middle and high school. So as you can see, Brown appears to be heavy on the guidance side and light on the adjustment counselor side. I think that's probably flipped, if not 100% school adjustment counselor, but
It's what's in the name, and I think some of this is like we with this, and Mike and I have been having this conversation, and it's school adjustment counselors, generally special ed, providing counseling services to kids. We also have staff that are considered social workers because that's what the license says, and they could be special ed or they could be gen ed depending on what they're doing. And then we have regular gen ed help with, like at the high school, you see the kids helping the kids get into college and do all applications. And then there's some bifurcated at the middle school where there's so it depends on licensure. So not to, I didn't mean to,
No.
but this has been an ongoing pain to figure out because, I think it's everybody's interpretation of, are they special ed, are they gen ed, are they, so it's more, for Mike, it's more getting them in the right silos that they need to be in. From my perspective, it's what is their actual, what they're actually providing for services, because I think a lot of people call themselves counselors. In Mike's world, that may mean gen ed, but they're really doing special ed counseling. So those are the things we need to kind of just, it's just gonna take a little bit of enabling to get them in the right spots.
from my standpoint, it's important just to get them into gen ed and special ed pocket that we're reporting it right to the state. So our expenditures are accurately reported and reflected when people go onto DESI's website, pull down expenditure reports. We're actually showing that we're spending money on special ed counseling or gen ed counseling or social work.
So gen ed is guidance and special ed is school adjustment.
So in the perfect world, yes. In Marblehead, it's not that simple yet because we haven't segregated them properly.
I think
That would be a good thing to do.
Yes, that's what we're working. That's what.
Like I said,
Well, I also think that
that
purposes of this, I'll speak for myself. For my purposes on this subcommittee is, yes, which bucket they're in is important, but is the staffing the correct
Right.
amount? That would be my question.
Once it's in the right bucket, you should be able to
Yeah.
more easily
Yeah.
determine that
Yeah.
it's the right.
And who helps to do that?
We're meeting, that's part of our meetings with all that.
so it's a combination between principals and the special ed student services department. Because I think they're both kind of not on the same page either.
Mm.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but not a bad thing, but it's not anybody's fault that they're not on the same page. I think it's just a question of,
Wouldn't someone's caseload help determine? I mean,
I think a lot of it goes down to how was the job posted 5, 6, 10 years ago? What is their licensure with DESI? Are they licensed as special ed? Are they not licensed as special ed? I think there's many levels to this onion.
and
that we need to
these haven't been dealt with in,
I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know.
obviously, right? It hasn't been dealt with.
Hasn't been dealt with the last year and a half, and which one of the things that we've identified needs to be dealt with.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we get into nurses. This is obviously your health officers. You'll see that, I put the athletic trainer in there. Just, and I know it's probably not nursing, but it's probably the closest stuff that I could drop it into to make sense. And as you'll see, the high school and the village have 2 nurses and the other 3 schools have 1. I'm sorry. So if you look at the Brown School, you have a licensed nurse and you have a CNA. That CNA position was budgeted. It wasn't needed this year originally and was moved into instructional assistant position. But now would be due to move-ins. We do actually have a need for a CNA. So we're moving pieces around the puzzle to get the CNA position back into where it belongs. But this was budgeted, not actual. And then you'll see under student services, there's a small $5,000 amount there that is actually a stipend for hours, which is in the Unit A contract. Transportation, I will say we put everything under student services for transportation, and I'm not sure that that is entirely accurate. The big buses are typically not special education or student services. They are usually gen ed, for lack of a better word. I just don't have really a grouping for them here, and I'm not sure that we've broken out our drivers to be sped ed, special ed, or general ed bus drivers.
Is that necessary, do you think?
It's a small number. It's a bigger district with difference. This is only in district. This is not out of district.
Oh, yeah.
Out of district, yes. Out of district is not.
Yeah.
salary because we run it ourselves, so that's not included in the spreadsheet. This is strictly in district, but I would say it's probably 50-50 on those drivers. That 298,000 is probably 150,000 is probably special ed, 150,000 is probably gen ed.
And that's just so folks know that if you have a child on an IEP and they need to be serviced at a school that is not their typical school, this would probably be on the elementary level.
Not just that, also it could
We
be that,
transport them.
the students in the
Yeah.
right school in the right district, they just can't safely get themselves to school.
That too.
Because
They
of
can't
their,
go on the big bus, they
Yeah.
can't, or they just, they require transportation based on the team by.
could be a physical,
Yeah.
cognitive,
Could be
it could
whatever.
be some reason that they are not, probably not safe for them.
And we are transporting them
Is
within district.
McKinney-Vento in that line or not?
It is. No, McKinney-Vento is fully. When I think of McKinney-Vento, I think of it as kids who are not living in Marblehead.
Yeah.
Or not going to school in Marblehead, but living in Marblehead. That's a contracted service. We hire companies to do that for us. We do have McKinney-Vento in town, but they typically ride the big bus, so it's part of that.
And McKinney-Vento, in case folks aren't familiar, is for homeless and homeless. It's the name of the
Yeah.
bill in the federal government. But that is the governing regulations. If you're a homeless student, and homeless can be, you don't have a permanent address, you are staying with someone, but you
Doubling up.
doubling up, something like that. So we are required to transport them to Marblehead.
Or
Or from Marblehead, within Marblehead, or somewhere else back to Marblehead, because that, we were
they
there.
get transported back to their
They were-
last school, right?
Right.
Okay. As long as, and we try to keep it within an hour, but sometimes it goes down. That's what the determination has been.
That brings us to the maintenance department. So I broke that up by custodial, maintenance. So you'll see maintenance is not covered, and so it's way down the end here. And then also, these are our technology, maintenance. These are our technicians. But then you have your facilities maintenance. So I did break it out a little further. But in here, this is really your custodial grouping right in here. In per building. At 23,000 under athletics, those are the overtime for custodians for athletic events. It isn't that is a budgeted item. I did put security under the high school and athletics. This is police details and other security for athletics.
Can I ask a question on the technology maintenance? So if I look at sort of the technology at the top in administration, we have the 318,000
Yep.
for.
So that's typically three salaries. That would be our IT director, our network director, not director, but network manager. Also the whole school committee meetings. And then it would be our data. So they are not supporting classrooms. Well, they do. Not that they don't. But
Their administration.
Right. Their primary role is not to support classrooms. It's just make sure the data is right, that, systems are all up and running. So they're supporting the classroom, but not. CRK teachers, it's usually the entire district, something has gone down or something needs to be upgraded or something needs to be, firmware or software.
And then down below, those are the individual.
These are
building
things that go out,
support
work with our teachers, work with our staff. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be our teachers, but it's to work with our staff. I'll leave for the moment.
And that's
No,
like
it's
how many,
Memorial Day and Labor Day.
like 3, 4,
I think that's all.
4.
Mind if I just say a couple things, just because I have to leave, unfortunately, on 2:50. So I know you have a lot of questions about technology and some other categories. But I just wanted to check in on this. We can obviously have follow-up meetings. This was very helpful to put it in from your all perspective, this summary. Because it's much more detailed than the way I did it, which I expected because I didn't know exactly how these buckets would be made up.
Yeah, it was a good start. Yes.
Yes.
And it gave us the direction we needed.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
anything,
starting
right?
Yeah.
So that's step one. That's last year's budget, right? You're obviously building this year's budget.
This
step-
That's this year's budget. We're building. This is 26. We're building.
We've already passed it out.
last year's approved budget.
Right.
We get it.
Coming
Yes.
approved
Correct.
budget. Gen Ed tab, which you guys can go through and we can follow up on. I can get an update from Molly and whatnot. That's sort of like you admitted last time. That's probably the easiest bucket to kind of analyze, right? Like you have the number of teachers versus the number of students in those classrooms. I'm sure there's some that are high or low. We could talk about that. That's kind of like step two, just beginning, right? From my perspective. And then the rest of step two is the hardest part, which is all of these other, now that we have the data summarized and you're going to build, I think about building this year's budget in a similar format. Like if I was doing this, which I'm not telling you how to do it, but I would look at this format for, okay, assuming we make no staffing reductions, no additional staffing hires, how do I summarize the budget per the contracts in this format? And then now you're tasked with a preliminary expectation of a flat budget. What does this summary look like? How do you have to adjust that, and where are you going to adjust it, right? And the comparison of those two should tell us where you had to reduce because you're up against that. But also, a conclusion. Well, how is our service delivery going to be impacted by these reductions, and sort of tie that into, well, is there room in the salaries and wages line? That's the overarching question that I think the enrollments decline has. We talked about that when we first met. We've been over it in these meetings. Is there room now that you've been here for a year and a half? You know what I mean? And where are those areas if there are? If there's not, then are the numbers, right? I talked about every cell. I know that's crazy, but like greening out every one, like, is this the right number for Brown for this? Is this the right number? You know what I mean? And some of these, I would work through the easy ones first. Like, not that it's that easy, but like, how many janitors are at Brown School? Like, you need a janitor, right? We're probably not overstaffed in janitors, right? So that you can just green that out quick, presumably. That's just an example. But when you get into like Jen talked about the special ed services, how do you justify the right amount for that per school? Is it the number of kids receiving those services? Is it a percentage of the overall budget? I think Molly and I she can get into the details, backed into what we think is a total special education percentage of the wages. And, in your experience with your background, and then the combined background of deep expertise in special ed, and then now as superintendent in multiple jurisdictions.
Districts.
Sorry, I'm a tax guy. I'm always working in jurisdictions. It is 25 to 30%, whatever that number is. You guys agree upon the data. Maybe think it's somewhere in there. Is that normal? You know what I mean? Like, how do we look at that? And this is just from a budgeting perspective. This is not operationally. It's like, is that, are other districts spending, X percentage of their wages on special education versus, you know what I mean? Is there some sort of methodology?
If you look at it from the percentage point, that is the way to start, because I think, that we can look at that and compare fairly easily. I think the operational part is where you get into the muddy stuff that numbers people like, because it's almost impossible to quantify, because you can say your classroom of special ed is 6 kids and your classroom of special ed is 8 kids and yours is 12, but your 6 kids can be way more needy than her 12.
Yeah, exactly.
So she has 3 aides in her room and you only have 1 in there. I mean, those are the
right.
I think Molly has done a ton of analysis on. I don't think there's anything that's just numbers wise jumping out as out of whack in terms of school size versus the size of different categories here. But I think just because of that enrollment that we've talked about, it's sort of like a fresh approach to building the wages budget. And my overarching question is, when you build that wages budget for this year up against whatever is the final message to you all, what's available for the schools, right? Again, I don't think I'm the final. I know that we've said flat, but that's not, I don't work for the town. I haven't given you that directive, right? That would come from the town leadership. But that's my expectation based on the other meetings we've had. So when you do all that, like, can we come up with this summary in a way that we feel comfortable that the services being delivered to the number of students we have enrolled at the schools is the right number? And if it's less than what we have in here adjusted for the contracts, what's the impact of that? And is the conclusion, is there, there was room here, maybe allocate that elsewhere? Or is the conclusion that, there's a severe impact? That's kind of, I don't know if that makes sense.
But we would need to quantify it somehow.
Right, so I think what I can say is, the work that Mike and Salt and the rest of our admin team are doing with the principals is doing exactly that first swipe at, hey, who do you have in your buildings? How many students do you have in your buildings? What do the classrooms look like? If there's some areas we can look at programmatically, what can we look for in potential movement or reduction of staff, and then see where that lands. Kind of that's the first shade, right? And then if it comes to fruition, so we should have a pretty good idea of like they get down to a number that we're comfortable with providing services for the students without going too far to whack and causing irreparable harm to students. And then come back and say, well, okay, that's great, but you don't have any money to even support that. Then what does that look like? And then that's when we look at, okay, well, now this classroom sizes are going to go from this number to this number because we have to reduce X amount of staff to get to that, to get to the number that we need to get to. So that's the work we're doing right now. And I think we're in a pretty good space with that. So
Yeah.
So you've already done the first sweep.
most.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess maybe I'm being repetitive, but like it's possible. I'm not saying this is the case, but it's possible when you do this analysis. You guys are new here. You inherited this, right? You've now mapped it out in this way, and now you're building this year's budget with more decline that we've seen even over the last year. There's a possibility that somebody doing this analysis could say, yes, we have a reduction in certain areas of this, and that's probably healthy. There's a possibility, is what I'm saying. And we're just looking for that answer is there healthy reduction to combat, the challenges? It's not as simple as, this is our staffing and we have a new contract and our budget's flat. So we have to fire people and, it's the terrible world we live in. It's possible when you do an analysis like this that there could be room in the salaries line, right?
I think not that we've done all that analysis yet. I think that would be a truism, that there'd be some healthy ways to look at this, and we'll find healthy areas and shift
Adjustment.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Just better
Yeah.
optimization. I like.
And it could, you're only looking at 1 year. It could get even harder as the contracts escalate. So there's a lot of factors here, but thank you for putting this together. And I think the whole purpose of kicking this off was just trying to piece together a very challenging, which you all know, right? You do it. How do we approach this and figure out a way that we can digest it, understand it better ourselves, and then communicate it to the town?
I think the narrative has to be, and again, I said this from the very beginning, I think we're all in the same mindset. Here's just how we get there. I think, and I feel better now than I can touch media, so more my crankies a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, Mike and I are charged with making sure that we create a budget that is tenable, that's meaningful, and doesn't really, undercut what we need to have for students. And then I think that delta is whatever we have to say we can't do with less than this. And that's the piece of the pie that we're looking for from somewhere, right?
And then, sorry, I gotta run, but thank you. The last thing, I'm gonna follow up with 2 simple requests tonight when I'm because I'm working on that 3-year. It's a little different from what we just talked about. It's kind of like our wages for the next 3 years. I know the 3rd year is probably out of contract, but your best estimate, assuming you kept everything the same, like not adjusting staffing, and then the out of district, I can give you that template and I'll just build 2 columns.
Same as last year.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to do it in very quickly, but if you could maybe, I'll send the request tonight, maybe get back to me by Monday of next week, if you could.
It just has to be
that work?
perfect. The exact.
It doesn't have to be
number that
perfect.
It's gonna be in 3 years.
What, so that would be Monday, and then
Exactly.
do you want to regroup? Maybe we can talk after that if you feel like we need to come back, and because we're going to also talk about the calendar. To
Yeah,
see when, I don't want to be wasting your time, but I
so
want.
Monday, that's for the town-wide exercise. It's just 2 specific school data points that I think are large.
That's the 8th.
I think it'd be helpful to have FinCom back when we have, some actual.
Yeah, we don't,
I mean, what,
Well,
I don't
yeah.
speak for the committee, but.
we can give you,
Yeah, as much as you'll get.
yeah,
us
but I
information,
agree, like, you know, we want to give you space to do your work. You know what I mean? But I think we're on the same page that the methodology of this exercise is probably useful. And you know, if you can keep it in that format, it would be a good way to track, you know, where there would have been just increases to these buckets under contract as is versus where we land in the budget.
Mhm.
So
Can you copy us, me on that? I don't know if you want to be
Yeah.
copied on that too. Thank you. That would be great.
what's that?
What,
Oh, I'll send it.
Whatever I
I'll
send you.
copy everybody.
Whatever I send you by Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I'll let you know when that meeting happens. It's either gonna be this month or next month.
is
Probably
that
this month.
townwide? It must be all departments.
Yeah, it is. We're bucketizing it by the largest categories, so.
Same like what we did.
Similar format.
I wasn't on this
Oh.
committee last year.
Oh, yeah, this meeting does not have.
This
I just
the
have-
Cleveland
no, that's-
Select Board
For the
every year.
whole.
Oh, got it.
Townwide.
Rolls out.
Like a 3-year revenue versus expense by the major.
Oh, no, you're
And
not.
for the third year, which will be out of contract, do you put in a place, you must put in like
Just tell me
2% or
if the
2.5%?
state asked you to do what you would put as your estimate and a one sentence as to why, and that's it.
For your-
It-
for the
it's an estimate,
contract.
right? You
Yeah.
can't predict the future, obviously.
Yeah.
But you would, if the state asked you to do it, right?
I mean, I can project out, I mean, hey, you can't do it because personnel's going to change. You're
Right.
going to have retirements, you're going to have people who join and leave. But if the same people were here in 3 years from now, I can tell you what step and column they would be on.
Yeah.
And then you guys can put a percentage on that, whatever you. feel
Yeah,
is-
well, I
The
would
third
look to
year.
you
We would
to
do
say
know the
what
2 years.
percentage you think in your
I know
experience.
27, I know 28. Correct. Yeah, I don't know 29.
Just put a placeholder percentage if you were tasked with doing it, and we'll just document that.
9%.
Is that what it is? No. But the point is that if our costs, if the way we structure the town of Marblehead's government stay exactly the same, everybody stays employed, we don't hire anybody new, we don't let go of anyone, that we don't consolidate departments, we don't do anything. These are what our costs look like versus our revenues, which are pretty easy to estimate for the next 3 years. We're gonna see that it's gonna be
Yeah.
looking in the red.
Declining.
With all
Yeah.
that.
Thanks,
All
Al.
right.
Thanks a lot.
Everybody good with this right here, or did we need to?
Is this any different from what we did?
So you guys have already seen it. Pat and
And it hasn't
Molly,
changed?
no. Correct.
Is this,
Yeah, they did.
so
I
is
sent it to them.
this 26 or 27? This is.
This is
26
fiscal 26
Actual,
budget, 26 budget.
26 budget.
That's what Alec was working from.
Um,
Just really cover this quickly. I put the enrollments in there and then I divided the dollars by enrollment to give you to kind of an idea per pupil.
And again, that's just salary.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
actual per
right.
pupil. I just have to say it every time because
Yeah.
I don't want it to be misconstrued somewhere.
Can I ask you, before we get down there, I had a couple questions up here too. So one thing that Alex sort of alluded to was on the special education. So I was trying to look at it sort of in total, right? So, and you can tell me this is the right way to think about it. But, you know, student services sort of less some amount of transportation, right? Is special education. And then we have the
And then we
special ed
have
teachers.
Special ed teachers,
We have the special ed services.
special, this entire category,
Yeah.
yes.
And then we have the special ed instructional assistants.
Correct.
Guidance.
When I lay that out,
And then guidance, you're gonna have something. in
Guidance.
some amount of guidance. So but
Well-
what I would say is the low end, because I took out all of the transportation, that would be about 25% of total
Salary.
salary costs are going to special education. And so I'm not an operator, right? And so this is where we rely, especially with all of your experience. What would you, is that a good target for us to think about? Yes, is, okay, and can you just help us
It used to be around 18, but it's jumped to like to the 21,
So-
25.
anchor that to something like, you know, something obviously easy would be like 1 in 4 kids.
Well, you
Are
can look
part
at
of-
it this way, like you could say, yeah.
How many kids are in
Is it that high,
How many
right?
special ed students do we have in the district?
Yeah.
Is
And
it-
we're at like 23% of that.
Okay, so-
Like, don't quote me on that, but we're in that.
Yeah, we are. It didn't used to be that high.
But
Okay,
that, and that's in line with the state.
but so that's super helpful though, because to me, like, I'm like, wow,
That's a lot, but
It
actually
is.
it's normal and it's relative to the percent of
Right.
students.
I think you can look at any district with that.
And it's comparable to
I mean,
others.
no.
Okay, so it's just really helpful to sort of anchor that and
And
because
I think the thing that's a little bit different right now in Marble, and it's not unique to Mulway. It just happens to be the situations that our tuitions, our out of district tuitions, in my opinion, are way higher than I'd like them to be.
Mhm.
Not maybe that they should be, but they're way higher than I'd like them to be. So that's a target. We're gonna try to bring that down. And I've said this a couple times. It's gonna take a couple of years to get to a point where we've built in district programs, we can pull those back in. But I think Melissa made the point before, like, oh, and what can you just move it in? But some of that tuition money becomes salary money, and it's to build a program. So it's not
Yeah.
a reduce 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
You probably
That's
save
net.
30,000, 30%.
I mean, the other question too about that, just that pure percentage is, you're not looking at the raw number of actual students, right? When we talk about the enrollment. So 25% of students, 25% of staff is still a lower number of enrollment. So
Because enrollment overall is going down.
it has gone.
Yeah.
No,
So a
it-
big wrench in that is,
That's a different analysis.
Yeah.
you might have a student that gets 1 hour of speech a week. You might have another student who gets 5 hours of speech, 5 hours of OT, 5 hours of PD, and whatever. I mean, I don't know what the grid would look like. You might have a classroom of 12 special ed students, as John was alluding to, or you might have one of 6, and those 6 are much needier than the one with 12. So to put a dollar to,
Yeah, and it's also the same, if you're looking at saying 23% of students are technically in special education programs, that includes anybody who's on an IEP.
right, that's what I'm saying, they might
Or
get
5
1 hour of speech, and that might be, but they're on an IEP, they're covered under that.
That's still, maybe that's the way things are. It just seems,
I think having the conversation of percentages is just a lot more. Well, it's easier to understand, and it's more palatable to say. And again, don't quote me exactly on the percentage, but I'm probably not that far off. I have to look at it and look at it.
well, it's not terribly out of line from 25% of staff.
Yeah, right.
That's so.
No, but the
Putting this
question
way-
is, well, we're not saying 25% of staff, we're saying 25% of the salary line.
Line.
And again, you're not looking at, yeah, you,
I'm
yeah,
trying to just take whatever data points that we can, right? We're never gonna have perfect information, right? So, but we're taking, and if this is just one data point that's helping us understand sort of operationally and financially the impact. And so, but what I'm hearing you say is that perhaps the area for improvement really is coming in. It's not as much, do you think, internally versus bringing in those?
Well, it's
This-
both, because we need to adjust what's happening internally to be able to bring those kids back in from out of district. So for right now, that the tuition is going to stay on the higher end for a little bit until we can get those programs the way I'd like them to be. Because I want to make sure we're bringing kids back in.
To keep
We're doing this
people in
successfully.
district.
and it's also to keep them
Keep
in before we send them out.
So there's this culture shift change that has to happen, because the thought process is like, oh, this kid's okay, I can't deal with this kid. My class wants to send him out of district, or parents saying, hey, I want my kid at this special ed school, and thinking it's kind of a badge of honor instead of is that what the child really needs. So there's a lot of factors. But yeah, so internally we have to build the programs to a place where and I say being comfortable because I don't want kids to come back and be unsuccessful. We need to make sure that they're having success. I need to make sure parents are understand what the process is, and that the children will be using the services that they require. So there's a lot of moving parts to bringing students back into district from out of district placements, and it has to have student teacher buy-in, has to have parent buy-in, has to have student buy-in. So we do that when we have solid programs in place. And we have them in pockets, but not I think it's gonna affect the overall bottom line.
And you know, we sort of threw out the number of students as just one way to sort of pin this percentage down, but you know, to the extent you can think of other ways, you know, whether, and I don't know what they are, I wish I did, but you understand this, other ways to tie that into an output, right? So this is, and whether it's IEP hours or, you know, what is to show us that it's, or show the town that it's right sized.
And I think I'm gonna have Lisa Marie Polito do an update on the student services, probably then not this meeting, but Thursday, but probably the next one. And my charge to her is to kind of share the good, bad, and the ugly around, out of district numbers, with challenges, move-in challenges, things like that, that really drive some of the conversation. I think that would be helpful. But it's not all budgetary, but it impacts budget. So, you know, like for instance, when you say, oh, administrative costs and stuff, yeah, oh my God, they might like absorb it. But then you say to her, hey, I have 10 PRS complaints that parents file with testing, and you need people to manage those complaints and follow up on complaints, write the response to the complaints, put the parents on the complaints. It's just, you know, it's not just, oh, I put a big deal. It's 10 millions of hours of people's time to address those things. So it's all those things that no one sees, you know, it's part of the operation, but it's a real part of the operation.
The extent to which we can help people understand that and understanding there's so many layers of complexity to it, like just
and it's funny because, you know, like everyone else, so like you're an expert, you're an expert,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes it's probably hard for you to explain, like, hey, this is
Yeah,
my budget,
of course,
because you understand
yeah.
so well, and I mean, so it is, and sometimes like if I sound like I'm kind of not explaining well, it's just because in my head it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like a lot of business people kind of they know how they build their budgets, but sometimes it's like kind of explaining to the lay people doesn't help. It's helpful. So,
But we
Yeah.
need to find a way to do that.
yeah. No,
We do.
agree.
I feel like you're being clear, but I also, I've seen a lot of,
Correct.
I've been so involved in the schools too and volunteering in the village. And so I see a lot of these positions that it's nice because I can see them in a bucket that helps me articulate more about where the money is
Yeah,
going.
we also have to balance like, hey, our budget was this, and especially cost of this part of the budget was huge. With also like, we don't want to necessarily say like, oh my God, that's horrible. You know, it is what it is, but we have to explain. You know, you don't want parents to be like, oh my God, you're calling out my kid, you're calling out the fact that my child's disability. It's not his or her fault. Because, you know, that's the whole narrative.
But I don't think we're doing, I mean,
No, I know
we're not doing it.
it can be perceived that
But-
way. And that's
but
what we miss.
You know, but people are gonna stand up at town meeting and they're gonna ask questions and we're gonna have to be able to answer them.
Yeah.
In a way to convince the town to fund our schools at the level we need them funded at. So we need to find a way, you know, to do that. And the other thing too, like in the other level is we've been hearing, you know, for quite some time about MTSS, which is this, you know, sort of early intervention of students, this whole idea of intervening before they end up needing student, you know, special services. That's another, you know, like where are we on that? And we've got, I know there's a lot of challenges with students today that we didn't have pre-COVID or starting pre-COVID, whatever. I know which we need to be able to explain. And so maybe the answer is if we didn't have the MTSS and the other things we're doing now, we would have 35% of our kids
right,
on IEPs. I don't know how you quantify that,
Right.
but
Yeah.
maybe there is a way to I mean, there
Yeah.
probably is. I mean, you track every darn thing practically,
Yeah.
you know, moment of every professional teacher's, you know, day. So that may be helpful to know too, to talk about that. So.
Yeah, and you can look at, you know, you can certainly look at, you know, trends of like, hey, how many students do we have to evaluate last year and the year before, and how many evaluating this year, and out of all those that we evaluated, how many ended up on that,
Yeah.
and how many didn't. That's data we can pull, and that's fairly easy to pull, and you know, it looks like it's just trends.
That would be great.
That's great.
Trends
I
are
love
great.
it. Honestly, like you can never do too much data analysis in my view.
Well, also the ideas around surprises, right? Like because I used to remember in the past when we had in former administrations, there were always surprises. Like we didn't all of a sudden this student who we've had for years is now, you know, heavily needing services or replacing out of district versus if we're tracking this and we're monitoring it, there shouldn't be any surprises.
Right.
If this is where this ends up after how many years of our, you know, working that it is, but that's not a surprise. It's been budgeted, it's anticipated, or you know,
and you do that's the best. Yeah, best can you have something it just happened.
And they move in.
Yeah, and
and some of it.
And and that's the thing is not to. I had a conversation recently this morning. We had a bunch of move-ins. We have.
And the move-ins were, you know, I mean, I know you don't necessarily want to talk about it. There was a specific group of move-ins that came in with some significant needs from a local community that there were some changes that were made in home situations and some families came to Marblehead.
Yeah.
So
And they come in.
you have no control over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to service the students that show up at your door and register, and there are students, and we have to, you know, treat them that way regardless of whether they've been here for a minute or, 10 years.
You know, I think a badge of honor for us too is that we adequately serve, you know, we feel strongly that we adequately service students when we do come.
All those things. So, you know, and just, you know, I was having a conversation recently and even this year alone, and there just seems to be an exorbitant amount of initial evaluations of students from, you know, a lot of it is when parents put it in writing and request it, it's very difficult to the testing. You can talk through them, like, you know, exactly what are we looking to find out, and we can kind of, but you have to kind of request it. You kind of,
And
there's a lot of that.
but the issue with that is, I mean, in the scheme of a child's IEP career, the evaluation is pretty de minimis, and that's going to tell you whether they need services or not. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like like it's sort of this like if I don't know about it, it's
No,
not there.
no, that's not what I meant. Sorry, it wasn't clear. Like what I'm saying is that when you have, like right now, we had to contract out services through like for psychologists to do some of the testing because we can't get to them all. That's the level I'm talking about. So when you have all of a sudden 10, 12, 13 kids who are expecting and the caseloads of all the psychologists involved, they have a certain timeline that they have to test.
Yeah.
And the team chairs are trying to schedule meetings. It has a trickle down effect. So that's all. And that's all real. You know, in some years it's, you know,
But which, I mean, is it likely that a child, all of a sudden, a parent shows up on the gen ed, the regular ed's doorstep saying, I want my child about, like, there's been no discussion at all about any concerns, and that on the teacher's part?
It happens more frequently than you think. And then like right now, of course, we just had parent teacher conferences, and then boom, you know, the kid's not here, they're maybe here, and I want to test it. So you always get that push, especially at the elementary level. So we get a bunch right after the parent teacher conference, and you get a bunch more. And
Correct me, I mean, we're getting in the weeds here, but
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but like a parent, I guess what you're saying, a parent requests testing, but if there's no indication that this child has any, you know, need by the professionals, are we actually obligated to, okay, so we actually are going to do an evaluation.
Obligated. You can talk to them and say, if they say, this is a famous, and this isn't just Marblehead, I want a core evaluation of my child. What does that mean? It means I want blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you can have a conversation. What area do you think we need to look at? Like, is it speeches? Sometimes you can get it and say, well, it's really only communication. So then you do a speech eval, not psychoeducational.
So I'm going to go
speech,
further out on a limb and say, if a parent shows up after parent teacher conference, I think my child has, you know, needs special education services, request an evaluation, we evaluate, and they do. And our professional staff hadn't noted, like I don't know. I guess that's right. You know, and that's
a disconnect, which shouldn't be. No,
But
typically in a typical world, and the world has changed in the last 5, 6, 7 years. It would be the professionals working with the children and say, "Hey, we need to test this child."
Once identify it.
And
that is
a lot of
typical.
times have to convince the parents.
So
It's kind of flip flop
Right.
in the last, you know, mid decade. You know what I mean? Just it's gone the other way because.
But I would.
This is not the weeds. This is this is what's going to drive the budget. So it's important to have an understanding of what is driving what is driving this and what options do you have. I think you know having a conversation with the parent is clearly the right first step. To try to focus in on, you know, as opposed to a global evaluation.
Great.
But again, then you should, unless it's a brand new person into the district, a brand new child in the district, and you still have history with the child's previous teachers that should, in a perfect world, not only should it have been potentially flagged earlier, but it's also rationalization and explanation to potentially share with the parent to
100%.
say, hey, you know, so
You're right.
sorry,
Right,
it's not my job.
No, you're
No, you're
100%
not-
right.
you're not wrong.
100% right.
We are, I feel like the better.
Yeah.
No, all that's true. Yeah, thanks.
And that goes to administrate, you know, overall administration, which I think, again, we're kind of coming out of the.
Think so. We're getting there.
But we had
this budget season, next budget season.
we're still feeling You know,
Oh, yeah, no,
effects
this,
of
we're still finding Easter
previous
eggs,
administration. Easter eggs.
finding Easter eggs. Less and less, but we're getting.
Yeah,
finding.
they're not golden.
Could I,
No,
so
they're not.
could I pivot away from special ed for a minute then and just talking about sort of administrative salary costs? So when looking through this, you know, again, having this format was helpful. So as I look at it, sort of school level administration principals is about 3% of total salary cost, which seems like very reasonable to me. I'm not, again, not an operator, but like, you know, seems reasonable. District level administration, so that would be superintendents, assistant superintendents, facilities tech. Again, that's about 4% of total salary costs. Again, seems reasonable to me, right? And then clerical on top of that is, you know, about 3.5%. So each of those categories sort of in total that this, you know, district level, school level administration at 10% of total salary costs seems very reasonable to me.
I would think.
But I want your opinion.
Yeah. No, I don't think if the conversation is, are we top heavy in administration? Absolutely not.
Okay.
I think you look at, you know, my salary, everybody's salary, we're in line with what we should be. In fact, I think, quite frankly, you know, we have principals and assistant principals that maybe on the lower end of where they could be if they went somewhere else. I'm not saying anything.
And we also have one school that doesn't have an assistant.
Yeah, we
principal.
don't have an assistant principal that probably could, and
Yeah.
you know, things like that. I think so there's no, in my opinion, like if you said, hey, we need to cut administrator, I wouldn't even know where I could look.
That's kind of was my takeaway, you know, looking at this.
The model of having, you know, team chairs as administrators is something we inherited. But they're administrators, but they're on the low end of the administration. So I mean that's not even really an argument either, to be honest with you. I mean it could be for administrative numbers, salary wise, it's not really because they're a lot of them are, you know, in line with what the teachers go pay the administrators. So I don't think that's tipping the scales at all in any way. So I don't know if 10% from that, I can speak that to the special ed. I don't know for sure, but it sounds like that's a reasonable percentage.
Yeah.
That's okay. So, again, roles and responsibilities summaries for administration staff is probably a good thing too, so that again, it's data that you can share with the public relative to, because think about the, you know, the demographics are probably, going to say, well, we never had an assistant principal in our school.
Yeah.
You know, when I went to school, what do we need an assistant principal for?
Well, we did. We did though.
I say spend a day in the middle school.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
for me.
I know.
So both of them,
No, I mean, I'm old
Yeah.
and we had one at junior high school. We did.
Student needs are a
We
lot
had vice
higher than
principal.
they were. I think supervision evaluations come a long way. You can't have one principal doing 40
Yeah.
evaluations. It's just
Yeah.
impossible.
They
There's
would be
not
out
hours in
there.
the day.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, if there's an argument to be had that we should have an assistant principal club, then the only school we don't have. Even though the numbers are smaller, the needs there are pretty high, and I think, you know, but
But we have two at the high school, so. No.
for most students, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that that's information that could be useful to anyone who's paying attention.
Yeah.
And hopefully there will be a lot of people paying attention, because
There will be.
that's what we want.
and facilities and maintenance, so that's about 6% of total salary costs, which again, like seems reasonable, but it's a question for you. You know, if there are areas within that, and because that includes some technology maintenance too. It seems
Does it also include the bus drivers?
No, but it includes technology.
Okay.
so that
We haven't done that deep dive yet. We're
Okay.
on the docket. It's kind of doing school level first, and then we're going into that. I would say at first blush, like our custodial staff, I think we're appropriately staffed. I mean, is there some wiggle room? Possibly. We have to look at really. What I need to look at there is more like, you know, how many second shift people are in the buildings, what does that look like, what's getting done, what's not getting done, you know, things like that. Like, when you look at the high school and the middle school, then there's a lot of square footage there, and, you know, Mike's done a really good job of overseeing, the department. I think we have schools that are much cleaner than they were, not long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue of staffing and it's the issue of,
Correct.
you know,
I think it's
quality.
and
Yeah.
The work.
I think quality of work is something that Mike's addressed. Staffing, like numbers, I don't feel like, oh my God, they're tripping over each other. I don't think that at all, but we haven't done that deep dive yet. You know?
One thing I will say is just from where I sit in the cheap seats, having gone through our capital requests, which we did at our last meeting, and just seeing, you know, that there's something to be said about, you know, townwide having, you know, some discussion around townwide facilities oversight for both capital maintenance too, frankly.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, you'll probably kill me for saying that, but you know, we're in the business of educating students. Now, we happen to have buildings we're responsible for, but I don't know. Is it, I mean, there are models. I think you might have worked under one where you had in your other district where it was the town was responsible. Or maybe I know Bill McCall, where the town was responsible.
Actually, my next question, because I think from our perspective, you know, we sort of see everything, right? And see redundancies in different places. And you guys have, I think, a pretty good working relationship with Alicia,
Mhm.
with the
We do.
town. To the extent you can find and articulate opportunities for that, I think would go a really long way in the town, whether it's on the facility side, the technology side, the HR side, the finance side. I don't know what they are. I know there's a lot of things that need to be separate, but anytime you can find some efficiencies, there's just not that many places for it. It's not like we can go to a different district and
Right.
share services with Swampscott. You know, this is something shared services within the town.
I think you can. I think from my perspective, it's hard because I don't know where the redundancies are outside the school district. Right. For instance, I wouldn't know. Hey, like maybe whoever's overseeing the, I don't know, overseeing the town. Like would they be
The
somebody
building commissioner.
Yeah.
Right. So like that is that a place that I would even like look to have a central efficiency.
Well, it's also,
but it's good for conversation.
But it's also subject matter expertise, like this issue with the roof has kind of come out that, you know, here we have, so there's a whole process when you're building an entirely new building with the state and it's very prescripted. But this case with the roof, right, there's no, we don't have the veterans roof and the high school roof. There's no roadmap saying, okay, you've got a multi-million-dollar project. Here's how, you know, and this is that.
There's more of a roadmap with the high school because we're required to have an OPM, we're required to have a designer, we're required to have certain oversight.
And still
The
he has,
veterans roof, we were not required
No.
to have a lot of that.
correct, but we still had some challenges. And so we've been able to bring in folks from the community to help us, support us with that subject matter expertise, but it would be, you know, if there was sort of a permanency to that, you know, it's not like, okay, thanks, Finn. Well, next time we have a multi-million-dollar project, we'll try to find people that can help us. It would, I just think that there's
Yeah.
something to be
I
said
think if
about.
there's someplace that we could join together with the town, it would be somewhere in that facilities realm, is to have some type of a committee made up of residents who have subject matter experts.
Yeah.
In Wakefield, we called it a permanent building committee.
Mhm.
They looked at all of them. They weren't appointed or elected board who really just wanted to make sure that the HVAC systems were maintained. They didn't tell us how to maintain them, how much money. They were making sure that it was done. They were looking at for the town's assets.
Yeah.
And not so much for
Yeah.
the actual day-to-day operations
Yeah.
of how
Yeah.
things are done. On the
So
flip side of that,
I'm sorry, isn't there synergy, for instance, with the Mary Alley roof issues and the things that have been happening with the library, there's an
The vets mean,
sorry.
the vets room?
We did come together. We had a bunch of roofs that needed to be repaired. So we did come together, you know, sort of with one warrant article. We did that.
Yeah.
But the actual management, in fact, that we don't have to get into it, but that in fact did not happen in the case with the high school because once it was bonded, all of a sudden it was sort of
Right.
thrown to us like,
Then
oh,
you get
you
to
have to have an OPM.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good luck. And we're going to go take care of Mira Alley and vets and the ones that don't need an OPM. So it's just sort of, this has got nothing necessarily to do with what we're talking about here, but I think there's an opportunity, there should be an opportunity to think a little bit more strategically about how we want to oversee these large projects because.
So you put in the ask for the capital planning to the.
Yeah.
So who does that go to?
Alicia.
Alicia.
Oh, Alicia. Okay,
Yeah.
so Alicia.
Yeah.
And,
And
okay,
there's some horse trading that goes on and then
and because all the other departments,
sports, right, right.
sorry, I
I think when I was in Wakefield, the facilities, the maintenance of the facilities, plumber, the HVAC technician, the carpenters or electricians, they reported to DPW.
Yeah.
That was a failure for the school department. We had over 50% of the property in town,
Mhm.
of the public property in town, and got about 20% of
Yeah.
their response. It was not.
Oh,
The-
yeah.
The director of
Yeah.
DPW reported to the town manager.
Right.
So when the
Yeah.
town manager said jump, obviously those guys were jumping.
Yeah.
Where they need to jump, and the superintendent had no control, no say in where those guys spent their time.
Yeah, that's detrimental.
It was a disaster. It was a disaster. And the buildings, the public school buildings were not maintained as well as they should have.
So maybe the maintenance, I'm just saying maybe more on the capital
Yeah, I
side,
mean,
and the capital
that's-
plan.
well, it would be.
And capital prioritization.
It would be a similar argument for the capital.
I mean, so to give you a much smaller scale, right now we are out for quotes on.
No, I meant in Wakefield.
Oh, what was the
There is the capital planning.
The
as opposed
DPW,
to building.
capital planning, I went through DPW also, and I felt like we did not always get a fair shake on that.
That was, okay.
We told them, like, it's very similar. We created a list of projects that we needed done. We gave them the list. They ranked them. They decided which they had money for. And it wasn't a 50-50 split as far as if we have 50% of the assets, 50% of the capital money should go to maintaining those assets.
Yeah.
Instead it was divided up as they, as they make stuff. And nothing again, I mean, it's just a different community.
Yeah.
But their building committee actually worked very well. We built a middle school and we had subject matter experts on the building committee. But it wasn't just for that one school, that they were assembled, they were, people resigned or were added on at any point in time. But it worked really well because it took a lot of the stuff that I don't know. I don't know roofs. I mean, if I have a root question, at least I know a couple of names now and wait to Marblehead that I can call and say, hey, can you give me your opinion on this? I didn't have that. I didn't have that 6 months ago. It takes a little time to develop that. And now that I know who to call, we've got an HVAC guy in town. Been super helpful.
Yeah.
Really, wanting to assist. We've got plumbers in town. We've got electricians in town. I think HVAC and roofing are probably two of the ones that cause us the most problems, right?
Mhm. Yep, sure. Anyway, maybe that was just an aside.
Can I ask you again, just a random list of topics? It's that you're going to be annoyed with me, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Never.
So on the user fees, if we look at this and I see, athletics, there's administration, some clerical, transportation, with the increase in user fees from last year, is there room to take some of this out of the general fund, to show that as a savings, a message, to all of us, like, I pay this fee, this is where it's going.
So I wasn't here when it was done, but I can tell you where the money went. So when they raised the user fees, they took all of the coaches' lessons out of the local budget and moved it into the local.
Yes. No, and we were here for that. Is there additional room? No. Because the fees increase was substantial.
I think the accounting of the user fees needed some revamping, and we did that more very recently. We moved the high school athletics. So all user fees went into one account. High school athletics, high school clubs and activities, middle school clubs and intramural, and village, lack of upper elementary. They have their play and they have some after school activities and everything. Everything went into one bucket of money. Everybody kept their own spreadsheets, but I'm not sure how accurate they were. So I worked with Alicia to break out high school athletics as their own revolving fund. Revenue goes into one fund, expenses come out of the same fund. High school activities in its own fund, revenues and expenses. Middle school, one fund, and elementary school, one fund. I think it's just a lot more transparency. I think Kent did an amazing job does an amazing job. I think one of the things that he could have that nobody had oversight over is how much money was Kent actually spending on of athletic money on athletics, and how much of that was maybe high school activities going to athletics. There was just no way to, or vice versa. Maybe his athletic money was going to fund something else. and there was no oversight. And that's gonna take a couple of years to flush through, but I think
Okay.
once we get through where we are, we'll be able to identify how much money we have and how much we can either.
It would also allow you to differentiate your user fees.
Well, so I think,
To some extent, yeah.
your point, when you look at that big bucket of money and you say, wow, why can't we pay Ken's salary out of that line? But if Mike's point, if that
Yeah.
big bucket of money is only this much in athletics,
Right.
you can't support that,
Right.
then that becomes the issue.
Do you have some reporting on that at some point?
No, I will, but not, we just broke it up. We haven't even distributed the revenues. I mean, we just set up the accounts. We told them to stop paying out of the right account now. We'll figure out the revenue where the money should have been to begin with.
Well, to Molly's
Let's at
point,
least start getting the data as far as where we're spending the money. The other thing I've noticed is that, Kent wants to redo have some project in mind. And I think to your point, if he actually sees his money, he's gonna say, well, now I can afford to do those projects, where maybe the district wants to do something. So we don't scrutinize as closely on the revolving funds. We scrutinize them, but not as closely as to where they're spending them. Like, I can't tell you whether the football team gets more money per kid than the tennis team or the hockey team or whatever else. Kent can break that down, but I mean, I don't have the staff or the probably hours in my day. Not that Kent does, or Mark, whoever's doing that analysis over there, but it's very tedious. And I'm not sure that we'll ever get down to that granular until I can set up the accounts to say, okay, here is football revenue and here is football expenditures. And that's, I'm not sure.
But breaking out the accounts by
School.
function is,
I think it was a win.
is absolutely.
well, we still didn't answer Molly's question, which is, do we
Do we have
have,
any room?
yeah, is there any
I
room
don't
there?
think right now we do. And I think one of the problems that we're gonna run into is that we set user fees at 500 some amount.
With a family cap of,
With a family, cap, correct.
20 something.
It's going to pay mostly salaries, but our salaries are going up by 2%, 2%, 3%, 3.5%. And there's been no discussion about raises. Two, if you're paying the salaries out of there and you're not raising the fee when you're raising the salaries, it's almost like saying, hey, the town's not gonna give the schools any more money, even though your salaries are going up. So they did say that.
Well, then that's a recommendation to the school committee, but I guess to Molly's point is, we ending the fiscal year with, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in the
I
revolving
honestly,
account.
hopefully next year at this time, I will be able to give you that saying, say, we ended the year.
Well, how much, whether it's one or multiple buckets, how much we have at the end.
Correct. And I just don't know how much of it belongs to athletics and how much of it belongs to.
But it still should be spent for, like, the question is, can it be spent for some part of the operating budget?
Well, I see that more as like a one-time use, right? If there's a balance in that fund, I wouldn't want to fund a salary based on having a balance now. I'd want to know
Well,
what
we
the
do.
recurring revenue is, right? Each year before I would actually fund a salary.
But we do fund the salary. We do fund the
No, but I think
stipend.
what you're saying,
If
we
you're
might have a.
taking athletics or something on here and put it into the revolving fund. I want to make sure there's a revenue line, not just a balance sitting there.
Yeah, no, and I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting, are we using it? Are we forsaking things, whether it's uniforms or other things that we need, because we don't have it in the operating budget and we're not spending it out of the revolving funds. We're just not meeting that need. That would be a concern.
I have not heard anything about us not equipping our students with the equipment, the uniforms, or the coaching staff that we need. Now, I'll probably get calls tomorrow.
Yeah, because where do the boosters? There's a lot of anecdotal stories that this stuff gets funded by boosters.
I've been in districts where they want the revolving fund to fund warm up sweats for the basketball team.
Yeah.
We give you the shorts, the tank top. We're not buying you the sneakers. We'll give you the socks or whatever it is. But there's a line where the boosters are funding to make sure the kids look good when they get on the court.
Yeah.
Or when they get to the court. And there's where the district pays to make sure the kids can actually function on the court.
Safely. Yeah.
Right. Football, make sure, we're paying for reconditioning, make sure the helmets all pass tests and, the pads are all there and, the jerseys are there. They've got their pants with their pads in them and, whatever else they need. But when it comes to, do they have a nice sweatshirt to get to the stadium? That's really not.
What were those items that you listed off a few things though, under athletics?
Oh,
It's
it's
just
just on here, like the administration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's only,
Clerical, the transportation,
Transportation should, in theory, come out of user fees, or some of it should.
it does. And it's probably 50-50 right now.
about 50% comes out of user fees and 50% comes out of local budget. But you've got two salaries. You've got Mark and Kent. You've got
But that can't come out of the revolving fund, to the point,
yes, of course it could.
because our food service does.
But this is to Molly's point, is if I'm taking 120, 160, $180,000 out every year now, I don't believe we have 180 that we can continue to do
Okay.
that. We might be able to do it for 1 year. And then what do we do that year after?
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if we don't have.
I mean, we're doing it for food services.
Food service can support it, and
We'll continue to support. it.
Yes.
But we also,
Or, you know,
I mean, we also could do projections on revenue, like I would think, like, 'cause food service, you actually can project because we're getting money from the government for that, right?
based on participation and based on funding from the government, but yes.
Yes, but the user fees, we also probably have we could probably do some.
Well, or like, you know, the
projection.
custodial piece, like you said, that's only 23,000,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yes,
there's a smaller, you know it, if there are opportunities, but I do agree it needs to have a recurring revenue stream we can tie to it, and if there's a balance there, then that can be used for, some maybe one time.
Yeah.
Upgrades,
Right.
or capital, whatever it is, I just would like to see, it's good to have a balance in it, whatever you think is appropriate to have a balance carry forward every year, but to the extent there's any that have something more than that, it'd be nice to just, let's
I
use
would
it.
love to get to the point where we set up budgets for athletics
I would love it.
and for middle school programs and
Yep.
high school clubs. and
activities, yeah.
Yeah.
so that we know, hey, Kent, you said you were gonna spend 200,000 on coaches' salaries. You did that, great. And you said you're gonna spend $20,000 on baseballs and basketballs and whatever equipment you need, but you only spend 10,000. You spend 10,000 more on reconditioning a field. That should have been gone before capital to recondition a field. That shouldn't be on the user fees or whatever else.
Well, and the other thing too is if you're spending whatever the activity fee is at 500, whatever it is, Yeah,
5, 6.
and your child's in the, whatever club, and there's, and there's one, some people overpaying, right?
Well,
Like,
and that's, so the school committee, so when you get into the clubs, it's $290, and unless you participate in every or any club you want,
Mhm.
except for athletics, take
Mhm.
athletics out of it.
Mhm.
So if you choose just to be in the chess club, you're paying $290 to be in the chess club. If you choose to be in the chess club, in
17.
National Honor Society and something else, your cost is now $130, correct?
Right,
No,
right.
per activity.
No, less.
Per activity, right? You're spreading that cost. Oh,
Yeah.
You're diluting it or whatever else, but yes. So yes, if you only want to participate in one, yes, you're paying a higher fee.
Yeah.
That was before our time, done by design, I believe,
Yeah.
and it's not on my list of things to
Worry about.
It's someday when everything else lines
No,
up,
but-
and when Unis is fully installed,
Yeah.
and we can
Yeah.
actually project salaries
Yeah.
accurately, and
Yeah.
encumber salaries accurately, and project
No, I-
project our $49 million budget, I'd be much happier
Yeah.
to go and look at some of these other things that are.
Okay.
I don't want to say
Yeah.
unimportant, but lower hanging fruit,
Yeah.
or higher hanging fruit, but less of it.
Did you have any other?
Just, I looked through, I appreciate this. This is so
Sure.
helpful. We don't need to discuss it. It's to see sort of the way I see it as class size. It's something that's, operationally, it's easy to communicate for people to understand, allows us as a district to say, what kind of school do we want? Do we want a school of 25 kids, in the first grade class, or, whatever that is? I think it's
From
this
last
page.
time?
No,
Or is
this
this
is
This is the
new.
same spreadsheet. It's a,
And
Oh,
bottom.
different tab.
it's a different tab.
Oh, it's the Gen Ed tab.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
It basically tells you average class size, and again, as I said.
Yeah.
In our class
One
budget, is that
instrument.
it may
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
oh my God, that class only has 17 kids in it. And it may be that those 17 kids have 3 kids who are higher
Higher
need.
needs.
Yeah.
Higher, and they may not be special ed, but higher need. We all know those kids
Yeah.
who get a little hyper,
Yeah.
they might have some very high energetic kids in that class, and putting additional kids in that class may not bode well.
I think too, having the projection too, where you're basically keeping everything the same, just taking it forward a year, shows there's a lot of variability. Keeping everything the same, there is still variability that you deal with, let alone sort of the changes that you would see on top of it, like unexpected enrollment declines or changes. Anyway, so I just think this was helpful to see. And
think of nothing else. If we were able to level service, I'm sorry, if we were able to level service. That sheet at least shows you, do I need to move a second grade teacher to third
Yeah.
grade because of the bubble? You know, this shows us that,
We have
as
to
if
do.
nothing
That's-
else.
And I think that that's kind of my question, and operationally, at what point, how much flexibility do you have when you are making those decisions, right? And to respond to, we hear a lot about, like what Sarah thinks about changes in enrollment. How much flexibility do you have to change things
Well,
based
so
on?
for instance, like if you said, if there was, you know, say five first grade classes,
Yeah.
there was that 18 kids in a classroom, and you say, well, I'll make it 4, and all of a sudden that number goes to 25
Right,
Well,
or 26 or whatever the number is.
and
Sort
so
of like
how
that
do you
flex
manage that? So how do you manage that? Can you-
But that becomes the issue because sometimes you say, well, you can't do that, so you're gonna have to keep it lower because if you don't, you're gonna lower the classrooms, and that's not good in the first grade classroom. Where you
Right.
might be able to explode that classroom a little bit more aptly at, like say, 6th grade. Where you know,
Or
you-
9 to 12.
or 9
Yeah.
to 12, especially at 9 to 12, for
Mhm.
sure. But
We were
you
averaging,
wanna
you know.
make sure
12.
you gotta try to preserve the elementary classroom sizes
Yeah.
as best you can. First, and you gotta look at the look at the high school classrooms first and say which ones can we reduce so we can increase the size before you get into the elementary. Just because kids in elementary need more support and their learning skills.
And an 8% reduction in enrollment isn't concentrated in any.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
It's not that, but that's over 6 months, and it's also a much greater percentage over 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. So it's a real reality. And I do think, honestly, it's discussion I think the school committee should be having is maybe doing some analysis on what's going on. Because I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And we
From a
probably should.
Financial standpoint, we're having incoming students that are going to have higher needs. That's the, you know.
But
that's
we're
the
still
opposite
losing
one,
a
right?
lot. We've lost a lot of
No,
students.
no, and it's absolutely the right thing to do to look at class sizes based on overall.
Yep.
enrollment. But this at least gives you data specific to grade.
Bubbles, right,
Yeah.
bubbles and whatnot.
Exactly.
It's one piece of many data points that we need to.
And one of the pieces that, you know, you have to look at a little bit more deeply is just even the reporting, because I know that just look at the reporting and, you know, is reporting
Well,
being from years ago, to me, because
I'm just looking at our own.
I know I
enrollment
said, no, I
reports, yeah.
understand that, but what I'm saying is like, if it's 2,511 today, what it was, you know, and it was 2776, whatever Sarah said it was,
In June.
in June. Yeah, I mean, what accounts for that, but what also is there an account, is there a reporting mechanism that may not have been that inflated numbers or deflated numbers?
Well, that's
Like, did
On
somebody,
you guys.
when somebody
Correct,
transferred,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
when somebody took their CUME folder and gave it to a parent and said, you're going to go to Salem Public Schools now because you've moved, here's your CUME folder. Did somebody actually take them out of Aspen at that point in time? Or did they wait until the start of next year? We weren't here. There's no way for us to know that.
Well, we were since June, so I guess, you know, like, whatever, it's just,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
we need to. We need to. I
There's
think-
also, I'm sure a piece of that is the exiting senior class was higher than the income.
Oh, yeah, no
kindergarten,
question.
so like if it net-
That's true, but
Yeah.
if you look at the numbers, we
Yeah,
lost 40, like, we lost 25 kids in the last week.
yeah.
So according to the enrollment reports.
Right, but then, like, I didn't look at that specifically, but that's 25 of those, because I didn't report on kids and the testing and those are counted in the count, so now maybe the tests been taken on the count, so we didn't really lose them, we just didn't really have them. That's right, that's kind of.
Well, then, I can't,
We need to know.
Then we
that.
need-
No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's, I think when you're looking,
I mean, you've got them assigned to enrollment reports have them assigned to a classroom and a building.
we have, in order for us to test kids, so then when you look at like the preschool numbers or the
Mm-hmm.
incoming, we have to have them enrolled, they have to be accounted for to be able to assess them. So
But-
as kids, we may have gotten like, say like 13 preschoolers that don't go to school here, but we have to test them, we have to put them in our account.
But like, for instance, I'm looking at last year's pre-K had 168 students and this year's pre-K has 130 students. And this year's pre-K has 78. So
I think it's also pre-K is a tough one because
Yep.
you might come in one day a week comparable to, in our role. And now those kids actually may be here every day, or the parents are doing some, the students somewhere else. Pre-K is a tough one. Other grades are easier, but pre-K is a tough one.
Okay.
Because we're recording them and we don't know how much you're actually here.
Anyway.
Do you see it drop after teacher conferences? Is that a driver?
That's,
Because
that would be.
I don't know, like, there's like some.
I
seasonality
personally
in
think
terms
we
of-
should be doing, and we asked for this last year, is exit interviews or some kind of way, other than just here's your folder, good luck. Like, and maybe some reporting on it, like who's going and where are they going? Now, they may not answer us. Parents may choose to opt out to answer a survey or question, but and it may be that we moved, but it may be that I'm pulling my student out of the school. Okay, I would like to know that.
But this, anyway, so thank you for this. This, I just wanted to confirm sort of this ties to just the gen ed teachers, which is like 30% of.
Yeah.
So 30% of sort of salary costs are tied to these numbers. Okay.
This was the easy food to grab.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but
Very
it's a
easy food to grab.
fabulous, illustration of what is a very big category. So like, I think it's very valuable, but again, like kind of what we've been trying to do is get a sense for everything else.
All right, so in the interest of time, because we're getting up there, the next thing I had on there was the meeting schedule. Mike had just put out a meeting schedule. I don't know if you have that with you, Mike, or we could forward it to you. We just put some dates on the calendar on when we are planning to meet, when the administration's coming forward with a presentation to the school committee. Then we'll have a budget workshop, then we will have a hearing, and then we will vote, all of which is.
I'm not planning on bringing principals in, we'll get there last year.
No, but there's gonna be some, or unless we're just going right to a hearing, but
I think it's kind of, we're probably gonna, well, depending upon how the budget thing goes, that was.
No,
helpful.
I agree, and we can
Okay,
talk about that, I agree, but I think we might need to present something to the school committee before the budget hearing.
So when we can talk about that.
Yeah. But so anyway, then we have a budget hearing, then we vote our budget before you. Vote our budget, or I don't know, whatever you want to call that, and then, so you have a vote, and then you have a warrant hearing vote.
Yeah.
You have two, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we have that, so I'll just have Mike forward it to you. Okay, so there, there are the dates, just, you have to look at it, decide now, but between you and Alec to,
That was, it was with that one. Whoever forwarded to that one. didn't
Oh,
do the other
that
one.
was me. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't even get those. I just this
I was
person.
joking. I forgot to send this
I
to.
haven't even.
I
This is
did-
what you sent out today.
I felt it was important to get.
I
it to my
didn't send you the
subcommittee
calendar.
first and then get it to.
Yeah,
FinCom.
because I don't remember seeing this
Yeah.
update. Yeah. Okay.
No, I was waiting.
Even though you somehow got that.
No, you did too. Yeah, I sent it to all three of you, I think.
Oh, well, if it
That
was just
should be-
today.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, no, I sent it like
You
days
sent me
ago.
this, yeah.
And
While ago.
Pat
Yeah.
and Alec, I'm pretty sure. I'll go back and check that. But just so you take a look at the dates, and just so that if anything jumps out and says, nope, this is a problem, or this is wrong, or whatever, we just want to make sure. And then I don't have any of these subcommittee joint meetings scheduled. We can do that as needed and insert them in here. But just to give you an idea, can you tab up for a second to see for our hearing, Mike? Who's calling? Can you just tab up? So we're looking at our public hearing on February 26th, potentially March 5th, the school committee votes. And then that would show, I think, the 23rd or the 30th, school committee presentation to FinCom, and then April 6th, your warrant hearing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sending off for you. the files
Yeah.
right now.
Thank you. Yeah,
Just make sure that we do have, I don't know. I know Jen shared it with some or most are.
the warrant hearing though, it would just be for your capital request, and if there's a.
Oh, if there's an override.
override.
Right.
That would be, because
Right.
once we vote on your budget, we'll be.
So I don't know how we want it, what next steps we want to do, or where.
You guys are gonna spend the next 2 weeks meeting with principals and
Yep.
whatnot, so you have to do the work, so.
Yes, we have to do the work, and then I'd like to be able to come back with the actual. Pertain to the
Yes.
stuff, right? I mean, this is great. I love this conversation, to be honest with you. I think it's great. It's helpful, and I think, this.
We have the January TBD.
John, you have February 5th, or Mike has February 5th, recommended budget presented to school committee. February 5th.
Subject to.
Okay,
This
well,
is the preliminary, additional dates and or likely to change.
okay,
Yes,
but I mean, it is, I am showing a presentation prior to the public hearing.
you have,
Usually,
you
yeah,
have
you
to.
do.
Yeah, that's
We-
all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to present.
And I was like, I
No, no,
can't-
no,
I'm not
no,
doing
no,
that.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
We have to present and then we have a week or two that we need to let that be on display here.
Yeah.
And then the hearing.
But then what happens if school committee members have questions to the
So
administrator?
typically we would present the budget on that night. You guys can, well, they'll have it before that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dropbox, then we have.
And we should have it before as
Before
well.
that.
Right,
as
and
subcommittee.
then we, then whatever questions you have and stuff initially that night, and then if we.
To who though? You won't have your building principals here. It'll go to you.
Yeah. Us.
In my past experience, we present one night,
And then have the budget hearing.
clarifying questions only,
Mm-hmm.
not too deep of a conversation. School committee members would individually, to not break our open meeting law,
Yeah,
email the
reach out.
superintendent and the business
With
manager
questions?
to say, hey, can you be prepared to speak about this?
That's, yeah.
When?
Clarify at the public hearing.
So, right, so the public
Okay.
hearing is typically a meeting
The
where the public can
yeah.
give a comment, and then we go to a regular school committee meeting, I don't know the dates.
So usually if you go
Yeah,
to
but-
presentations, and then whatever questions they have.
Yeah.
And then if there's individual questions in between.
Yeah.
And then the next school committee should be the public hearing.
And that's for the
typically
public.
that's- but typically that's when the school committee would vote. Or.
No, we don't vote the same night as the hearing. No way. Because
They want,
the pub
they want to think about what the public.
says, yeah, exactly.
No,
And
there's
there
no
could be
comments,
changes.
there's no comments from the public, why can't they?
Well,
We're not.
Well,
That's
so
unlikely.
it's February 26th is the budget hearing to the school committee, right? And then
Presentations on the fifth, the budget hearing.
the vote is on the fifth.
on the fifth, yeah, the next meeting. Yeah, the next meeting. So that gives the time for the public, you know, who could make any changes or whatever.
And, but right.
And it still gives us wiggle room if we don't
have to-
pass it
I
on
mean,
the
We don't
sixth.
have to have it until May 4th, right? I mean, technically, you don't have to.
We want FinCom and the school committee to have the same number.
Yeah.
It's in all of our best
I
interests.
disagree. Just saying.
Because if we don't vote a number, they're gonna vote a number, no matter what we've done.
But they're recommending.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
They're recommending favorable or they're not recommending
Yeah,
favorable.
correct.
They're not giving a number.
Well,
But we,
no,
well,
yeah.
we're consolidating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
With
technically,
Yeah.
what
all
goes
the
in front
other
of town
towns.
meeting is
Yeah.
the number we put there.
Yeah.
but We also will recommend or
Recommend.
not recommend it, yeah.
So we don't, that doesn't help anybody for that to not,
Of course.
yeah,
We
happen.
want to be,
Yeah.
we want to be intelligent.
Don't you guys like seeing us?
I do.
We love seeing you.
Yeah.
Because I hate that room.
No.
Okay. All right, so just, those are the dates and
So
then
do we, I guess another joint meeting then, like the first or.
you have it, he actually, I stand corrected. You had one for January.
TBD,
Yeah, but we can do that.
we can agree on a date closer to. or-
You are taking the next couple of weeks to go through this,
Yeah.
right? Where do you think you fit in coming back to us with an
I'll leave that
initial?
up to Mike, cause he's gonna be the one that's comfortable with that. But
I would like to do it before Christmas if possible, or before the holiday.
What do we have any, like,
What do you want to do?
now?
I missed that. It's just-
You're gonna meet with the building principals.
Yeah.
I would like to see something back
Mhm.
before we break as our subcommittee.
We have you guys meeting with the principals between the 1st and the 15th, then you guys taking the feedback from the principals back and you guys reviewing it between the 8th and the 22nd of December.
Can I share what my concern is?
Yeah.
Is that through these meetings with the principals, we've asked them to identify positions that are critical. I cannot operate my school without these positions. What positions are would cause an impact in education if I cut it, but we'd find a way to make it happen. And then the positions that, you know what, I can live without this position. I would be very uncomfortable sharing that list publicly in December for a May vote.
I'm not interested in that level of detail. I'm interested in you coming back and saying, based on preliminary discussions, this is what we're looking
Right.
for a level
Potentially, we
funded
could
budget.
cut 6 positions.
Correct.
Right.
I will never
Yeah,
be
we don't need
looking,
the details.
ever looking for
Yeah.
the specific. That isn't our role.
Yeah.
But when did you give them this? Because I mean, it does seem like a long, when did you give them this directive?
So we've done one school, we did a trial because Well, we also have to align all the calendars. I thought it was really important for Juliet and Lisa Marie to also be involved in every one of these discussions because they are overseeing general education and student services, special education. So it did take us a little time to get our calendars synced up. We had our first one last week. It went very well, and it showed the importance of having all four of us at the table.
So when would all of them be done?
There will be 2 done next week and 2 done the week after.
So we're still on track.
Okay, so the week of the 15th, because we're out on the 19th. Aren't we? Or we are back on the 22nd and 23rd. I don't remember.
22nd, 23rd, well,
So in theory, we could meet on the 22nd or the 20th, or not. Or we, because otherwise, if we don't, we are January 5th.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
concerned about
Like
the
a month
timeline myself.
or 3
I think
months.
there's a lot of work to do. If this was a level service budget, great, no problem. Give us $1.7 million. We'll be happy and we'll put a nice presentation together and you guys will see everything. This is not that. This is going to be.
Well, then,
Do you think you need more time? The week of the 5th would be better? June.
I'm happy to
did.
do whenever. It just we may not have every bit of data that you guys want at each point, which means that we need to schedule another meeting for 2 weeks after that to finish up
I see.
conversation. And
let's put it this way. I would like to meet with you. So we either meet as a subcommittee, and if you don't feel or whatever, I would just meet with you both together. I would like just where are we?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm good with checking.
Yeah.
Keep me honest.
Yeah.
Okay,
so can we do that
22nd.
on the
I
22nd?
don't know what ridiculous that would be. Monday, 22nd.
Are you working?
I am. No kids graduating that week. I think I'm good.
And we can zoom it too, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll zoom it. All right, so we'll do that just as a check-in. What time? I can follow.
I'm good at any time. Yep, for wide open.
Want to do 10 a.m.?
Probably.
Oh, no, you have your
Yeah,
administrative.
10:30 would be good.
Are you sure I can do it later? Whatever you.
No, 10:30.
10:30. All right, I'll set that up. So that's the 22nd. Then maybe after that, we contact you guys
Yeah.
and see sometime in January, where do we think we're gonna be? Because I think we should come together, see, and then he's gonna present to the school committee later in January.
That'd be
That-
perfect.
That's where we've jumped off. And it will be after State of the Town. I'm not sure what State of the Town, I mean, we kind of got it. I mean, it's really the revenue side is, thing in November, in October, but.
Yeah.
So December 22, 2026 Finance Subcommittee meeting.
Yep.
Not a joke.
Not true.
The expenditure side is pretty important too.
Oh, it is, yeah, it is, yeah.
That's lays the foundation
Trying to give
for
us some of the year.
do we or don't we? And, pretty. Seems pretty clear. that-
We don't. Okay, so I'll follow up with Alec or with all of us in scheduled time for January.
Sure.
And I can also kind of brief you guys after the 22nd, just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Because that's not an issue. I can talk to any form of you.
We are not an official subcommittee.
Oh, you're not?
We got feedback from the town lawyer. So we're like FinCom liaison teams. This is what we've been told. So
And technically.
Well, how many people are in FinCom?
9.
Yeah, so you're not a forum, yeah.
And so,
That's
but
right.
all
We're not
3 of us
forum
can
of
meet
the-
and discuss and it's.
Yeah, we're not a forum of the finance committee by any stretch.
Right, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't even be
We're not considered like,
Subcommittee?
we're not considered, we don't make official recommendations. I guess
Okay.
we're just, that was what because we checked with
Yeah.
Lisa.
And that's why.
Well, if she
Get it in writing.
Attacked me. I put that to other people.
Get it in writing.
The comment about requiring minutes is not even real requirement, but I mean,
Well, it is for us.
It's not for us.
not for us.
Yeah, no, I think.
Yeah, it is for us. So we also,
If we
there's no,
jointly with you,
we'll just do our minutes.
okay, so the minutes that you sent from the 17th, do you wanna?
Well, no.
Well, the 17th, that was my error. That actually was just us. That was an error. The 10:30, I don't think I've done minutes, but I don't know if you guys,
need to
you
be
don't need
involved
them.
in minutes.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize that because I thought I was doing them for both subcommittees, but
Joint with you was.
10:30.
17th.
wasn't it?
No, the 7th,
No, the
November
10:30
17th was just.
was just us.
10:30 and we had 10:50.
Yeah,
Oh, you
Yeah.
did you listen to it and take notes?
yeah. 10:17 was just this subcommittee.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
11:17 was just.
11:17, yeah.
10:30.
You know, because we just send like informal notes to the whole, like,
Committee.
based on, right, summing up everything we discuss in total.
Okay.
But we don't do minutes.
All right, so 3:55, do you have a motion to adjourn?
Well, are
Oh,
we,
sorry.
what, do we have to wait to put those on the?
Yeah, they're not on the agenda. I mean, you can make a motion if you want to approve them. They're not on the agenda?
We also
Um,
have to do the two from the meeting
Yeah,
before.
which I haven't done.
Okay, so can we put up just on our next agenda, we'll do the,
You can make a motion to approve those. We can do it.
I will make a motion to approve the November 17th meeting minutes.
I will second that. And I'll take a vote. Martha
In favor.
and Jen in favor. So we approved the 11/17/25 minutes. All right, I'll get those up.
You need to ask for public comment again.
Um,
Is anybody still even online?
let's see if there's anybody.
I
That's
see
a good
nobody
point.
on my screen, so.
Let's just see. I will, the public comment is on there. So the only person I see there is Jack Attridge and Will's note taker. So is anyone interested in making a public comment? So raise your hand. Don't see any hand raised, so I will, I'll adjourn us at 3:56.
Leaving the meeting.